Yes. Is it goofy? Is it a goofy?
It's not goofy. It's a very oddly specific.
Green tea.
Yes!
If you hear this, don't give up. No matter what.
What or who finally convinced you to join the Star Wars universe after all these years?
I was asked.
This is not the first time you were asked to join the Star Wars universe.
It was.
No way.
Yeah.
So your friend Ewan never said, hey, have you ever thought about joining Star Wars?
No, kept it all for himself.
So who gave the call? Tell me about this.
John Watts. When you get that call teed up, you're immediately kind of intrigued. You think, please don't just have me play like some tiny little thing, like please let it be wonderful. And he then describes this extraordinary character, really mysterious, multifaceted, contradictory, complicated character who I just saw so much potential in. You know, there's menace, there's humor, there's heroism, there's all these different possibilities, but the jeopardy's real.
Yeah.
You know, I just thought that was wonderful, so I was in. You try that, you'll be recaptured and back in the brig before you can say parsec.
What and when was the spark for the Skeleton Crew, John?
When? I pitched this to Lucasfilm right after I'd finished the first Spider-Man movie, and I had been in Japan promoting it, and I flew back and went straight from the airport to Kathy Kennedy's office, and we had this idea about a group of kids that got lost in the Star Wars galaxy and had to find their way home, and that's when it all started. I think we called it Space Cop Car when we were talking it to ourselves, which is just, you know, the film we had made before Spider-Man. It's just about two kids, you know, finding a police car and getting into lots of trouble.
Yeah.
So we kind of
Kids being way in over their heads. And
Yeah.
Star Wars Galaxy has even more headroom above a kid than Earth.
I need you to take the controls.
Okay. Neel? Neel?
Every Star Wars fan growing up always identifies a character who they secretly want to become when they grow up. Who was that character for you?
Han Solo. I mean, it's no pause. I just, from the stripe down the side, I've got a stripe down the side of my trousers as Jod because of Han Solo. That's my one little nod because...
Did you ask for those stripes?
Yeah. His are like that though.
Yeah.
Mine's just one because, you know, otherwise it'd have been two on the nose. There was something as a kid that appealed to me about his kind of shrugging, cynical, but he was just so cool. And I don't think that he was a hero. You know, it was, you know, Luke's the hero, of course, but there was just something about his begrudging heroism that was just really appealing to me.
For sure.
You know? And I love that character.
I love you.
I know.
I would say Han Solo. I just think he's very bad. I don't want to say that. I would say he is just very kind of like, I don't know, he's just very cool. He's very like, he has a blaster. He's very cool. I think he drives the coolest ship.
It's always been Princess Leia. Because I thought I looked just like her when I was little. Because I would put like the sheet or the towel dress and then the space buns on the side. But I loved her so much. And I remember seeing her and I literally wanted to be just like her. Like I remembered that thought in my head.
I would say Luke because the first Star Wars, anything Star Wars related thing I've watched was A New Hope when I was about 5. My dad showed it to me and Luke Skywalker really always resonated with me. There was something about his persona, like his energy. Also, I found things from Luke that also felt familiar for Wim, too. So I kind of played a little bit of Luke into Wim.
I'm going to say Han Solo as well. And my favorite line would be "Laugh it up, fuzzball."
Oh, that one,
my favorite line.
Laugh it up, fuzzball.
He was always my favorite character, and even watching the movies back when I got the job, I took a lot of my inspiration from him for Fern, and even like down to like the personality to the clothes. Like, I felt like there was a lot of similarities there, and like the personality, sense of humor, and you know, like the kind of like leader. Yeah.
For filmmakers and creators, I'd like to ask a little slightly different question. What is the Star Wars scene that made you want to create something in the Star Wars universe?
I love the end of Empire Strikes Back just because it's like such a dark, bleak ending. Like that stuck with me. Like that you can end on a down note. Like that really always resonated with me as a filmmaker. I was like, oh, you can do that? Like it doesn't all have to tie up perfectly. It can be kind of like...
Yeah, that's probably the biggest, most mainstream down note thing you're seeing at that age.
What about you, Chris?
You know, I was thinking about that. I think when me and my friends realized that Luke was a nerd, it was kind of this really empowering thing. You're like, no, think about it. He wanted to go pick up some power converters, and he was playing with that toy ship. Think about it.
Like that's
really
really cool.
You knew right away.
Yeah.
You're like, he shot himself.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
The show starts with a scene where Wim appears to be playing with Darth Vader and Luke action figures. If they made action figures based on you in real life, what accessories would that action figure come with? Ravi?
That's such a good question. Let's see.
They did make action figures of us.
Well, yeah, no, but like outside of our characters.
Oh.
Yeah. I would say. Okay, I would say I would have a camera, which is based on I've always loved being in front of the camera. So you know, if this is based on me, I've always loved acting. I've always loved the craft. You know, I've been acting and performing since I was like 2. But in my living room, I would dress up as various Batman characters, the '66 Batman show.
I would probably have my guitar. That'd be kind of fun. Got a Fender.
So do you play the guitar and sing?
Honestly, no. I stay in my own lane when it comes to singing. I just do the guitar. That's about it.
What do you play most of the time?
Most of the time, I love like 80s or 90s music.
What's
Kind of my jam. I've really been into Deftones recently.
Oh, good for you. That's awesome.
Everyone has had such good answers, but I would probably pick boba. I love boba. Like, I don't always eat it when we're filming, but I love eating it in my free time. It's so good. And I've always had like a kind of sweet tooth, so.
Tell the fans what your favorite flavor of boba.
I like brown sugar boba. Like with the milk or taro.
She's fancy.
Thank you.
Robert, what about you?
I think one of my accessories would probably be a Diet Coke. That is like my Lord and Savior. It's just, I love that. My Diet Coke got me through filming. It's everything to me. It's my essential item.
That's fair.
Okay. Right, I'm going to ask Jude this question, but what would Jude's accessory be in real life?
Green tea.
Probably.
He said he drinks green tea every morning. And I drink green tea too, but we're basically twins.
Sounds about right.
I would have a record player.
Really? That's awesome.
That's what I would want. A little mini record player, yeah.
What are you most likely to be listening to on your record player?
Oh gosh, I mean, I listen to an awful lot. Some, probably The Clash. Hold on, but so they said, here's a Jude action figure. What's the accessory?
Yes.
Is it goofy? Is it a goofy?
It's not goofy. It's a very oddly specific.
Green tea.
Yes. So this is true. Tell me about your
hilarious.
Tell me about your green tea addiction.
Yeah.
Jude Law.
Yeah, I love green tea.
Maybe we'll get a sponsor.
I discovered green tea when I first went to Japan, and I've been fortunate enough to go back to Japan several times. I love Japan. Yeah, I just became a bit of a green tea snob because I realized that having drunk it there, it's another experience. So I now source places. LA's very good for it. Source good places. I buy the teapots and the ceramics. I pass this on to my eldest daughter, who is now learning to actually give tea ceremonies. That's great. Oh, bless them for remembering. Ravi bought me some green tea, actually. Did he say it?
No, it was Kyriana at first who mentioned it, and then everyone was like, yeah. Isn't that amazing?
That's so cute. Also, I kind of want a little mini teapot with my action figure. That's not a Jedi thing, the Jedi say.
Right from the get-go, the series itself is just like a visual hug. It's like visual comfort food. And there are Easter eggs aplenty from the get-go. I love it, and I think fans are going to love it. Is there an Easter egg or reference that you really had to fight for or had a hard time placing in the series?
No.
What was funny was that everyone. It was such a supportive and loving team around us.
Yeah, basically when you are working at Lucasfilm, like they just have closets filled with Easter eggs. And they're like, do you want this one? Do you want to hide this one somewhere? Like there's so much to work with.
Is there anything in particular that we should be on the hunt for?
I mean, the fun is finding them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's more Ewok Adventure ones than you might think.
Yeah.
If you think you found the obvious ones, keep looking.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this cast of young stars. I think the magic of this series is getting introduced to a whole new bunch of kids. It sounds like you sought some advice from the Goonies director, Richard Donner, initially about what it was to cast young stars. What advice did he give you that turned out to be spot on?
Well, he was telling me a story about how when the cast of Goonies got back together many years later, he was like, they were exactly the same as they were when they were kids. Basically starting the same conversations, breaking off into the same groups, the same kids who were pulling pranks when they were kids or pulling pranks when they were adults. And he said, when you're casting kids, you don't cast a kid to play a role, you cast a kid because of who they are. So that was something that we talked about and always kept in the back of our mind as, we're seeing all these really great, talented young actors, but you're kind of just waiting for the character from the show to walk in the room. And that's the patience that you have to have when you're casting something
that
like
made
this.
casting Neel the most difficult.
Yeah, we're just waiting for a blue alien elephant creature to walk through the door.
In the case of Neel, what were you looking for in that character specifically? I would imagine that is a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, a sweetness and a kind of willingness to put yourself out there that Robert has.
In our mind, he was shyer than Robert.
And that's the other thing
was in real
is
life.
sometimes the kid walks in and you learn from them, oh, I was wrong. Actually, the character's a little bit more this way.
They when the character walks through the door, they tell you who the character is in a way. And when Robert walked in, we were just like, who's that guy? He's so sweet and he's just wants to make everyone happy and cracking jokes. And it was not exactly how we had imagined Neel in our heads.
But
it was better.
Yeah.
And so we went in and rewrote the scripts to sort of.
Yeah. And all the kids brought that. I mean, just like Ravi, the way his physicality, I wasn't expecting the way that he'll just fall down a hillside.
Ravi was always falling over. Yeah, all the kids, we went in after we had cast them and sort of punched up their characters throughout to match who they are in real life. Knowing that Ryan could play so many levels of complexity is something that you don't initially think you're going to find when you're casting a 10 or 11-year-old kid. But Ryan is just such a great, talented actor. She can play both sides of this character. And so we felt like we didn't have to hold ourselves back. And we could write a lot more complexity than we thought we might initially be able to get out of an actor.
That first version of my head was maybe a little more of kind of a loudmouth, kind of forcing her way through things, but she can do that without speaking.
Ryan said Han Solo.
Yeah.
Yes.
That really informed her performance.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Oh yeah, totally. The way she stands, her whole...
she's sitting there talking to you, and you don't know that she's getting her blaster ready.
You can do anything.
Yeah. You're a Jedi, right?
So I need a little help from the younger generation here. For folks who grew up in the 80s, the Goonies and E.T. was really such an essential kind of viewing experience.
Still is today.
Still is today. What is that movie for today's generation?
A movie that just came out that's their version.
What is the defining movie of your generation?
Can I see a TV show?
Yes.
Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Just because it definitely has kids. It has more of an 80s vibe to it. And also, hey, if we're talking about TV shows.
It's such a unique concept, and it's such a unique style, and it feels just so iconic.
They said that perfectly. I would completely agree with that.
Stranger Things. I love Stranger Things. I watched it when I was really young. And I love it.
Turn around. Look at what you see.
John, what is harder, directing kids, Clooney and Pitt, or 3 Spider-Men?
I've been really fortunate that they've all been not that difficult. They're all people always have this fear of working with kids, and honestly, it's great working with kids. These guys were such pros.
You should make one of those Babe movies next with all animals.
Yeah, they just do all animals next. That's I'm asking for it, I guess. No, these kids were great. Everyone is always afraid of that, but they bring so much excitement and joy and genuine enthusiasm that on set it was just the best feeling.
I mean,
it's hard to have a bad time when kids are like, "Whoa, look at that!"
Yeah, it helped that it was Star Wars and so much practical stuff, but we really took pains to make the set be fun and not too hard, you know. And you know, there's when you're shooting with kids, you don't shoot for as long. And when they're at school, you know, in the corner of the studio, when they're coming on set, that's the recess.
Yeah,
for them.
yeah. We
wanted
made
to embrace
shooting
that
feel
feeling.
like recess. You know, and then they had to go like do their math homework or whatever.
What did you do? We're lost. Really lost.
You've mentioned that you were nervous about taking on this role in the same way that you were kind of nervous about taking on the responsibility of Dumbledore. Do you still feel nervous about the series and the role? And then what do you want to say to Star Wars fans who are curious and also eager to learn more about what the series is about and who you play?
I mean, I'm always a little nervous when I have a project coming out because, not always, but on the whole, you know, I really believe in the piece, and it's cost a lot of emotional input and time and effort, and you know, you care about it. You should care, and therefore, you know, the idea of it not being well received or just being forgotten or whatever is the risk, and that's why you get nervous. You can also be confident in that you think you've done the work, and you know, there was obviously an enormous amount of posts on this, and all that to me has just elevated it to a whole other level. It's a beautiful piece of work. And I am still a little nervous, sure, because I'm aware that, you know, there are fan bases that really are passionate about this, and so they should be. It's a much loved world, a universe. I really hope they see the intent behind it. The intent was, as I've kind of mentioned a few times, I think to really shed the awe and innocence of children who have never been looked at in this universe before, and look at the world through their eyes. I would ask them to embrace that and enjoy it, because that was purposeful.